Hello, this is Robbie Mitchell here from Head in the Cloud Development to give you a quick demo of our BFN-approved T3 pedigree tracking SuiteApp for NetSuite. This video is being recorded in April 2021, showing version 2.3.5 of the SuiteApp on NetSuite version 2021.1. So the main reason this SuiteApp exists is because pharmaceutical companies in the US are required by law to maintain pedigree documents that show ownership changes for each lot of each drug they buy and sell. So we created this SuiteApp to make that process easy for companies running on NetSuite. This module has actually been around for quite a few years now, and you may have seen my other video on the Pedigree module recorded back in 2017. This video will again cover the primary aspects of pedigree tracking, and we'll also look at some of the new features that we've added in the last couple of years, including entity license validation and handling items that have lot numbers and serial numbers, as well as automatic T3 pedigree creation. Now we'll dive into a live demonstration. We're going to start this demo a little differently. I don't even have the SuiteApp installed yet, so let's start from the beginning and I'll show you how easy it is to implement and configure this module. Start by going to the SuiteApps tab in NetSuite. Type in Head in the Cloud on the left to see our BFN-approved SuiteApp, and click on the T3 Pedigree Tracker, and then click the blue Install button. This process should take a couple of minutes. So when it finishes installing, you should have this new Pedigree tab here. But the first thing we'll want to do is go to Setup, Company, General Preferences. Scroll down to your Custom Preferences and look for the T3 Pedigree Settings. First we have the Use Serial Numbers checkbox. We'll come back to this. For now we're going to assume that you're just doing lot numbered items, but more on this later. Next is the T3 PDF folder. We need to have a folder in the file cabinet to put the T3 PDF files. I'm going to go to my file cabinet. And I've got a T3 Pedigrees folder here, so I'm going to use ID 808. Now I'm going to go ahead and enable license validation on purchase orders and sales orders, because I'll be showing you this later. Now the company name and company address control how your company shows up on the PDF printouts. So I'm going to enter it in here. The next preferences pertain to how you want your items to display on the T3 printouts. Everybody names their item records a little differently in NetSuite, and we give you the option to show them either by the item name or the item description. And finally, the T3 print template. It uses ours by default, but if you wanted to customize the print template, then you would use this field to control which template is used when T3 PDFs are generated. I'm going to click Save, and we're done here. Now we need to configure our item records. I'm going to edit my test drug here. Now notice that by default, our T3 fields just get put kind of down here in the bottom right section of the main form. I like to customize the form to group all these fields together just to make it look nicer, so I'm going to do that first. I'm just going to create a T3 pedigree field group. And I'm going to put these fields in it. Now if I refresh my item, it should look a lot nicer. There we go. I'm just going to fill in some data here. Dosage form is capsule, manufacturer name is ABC Drugs. I'll enter in an NDC number. Product size, drug strength. Now as we fill this out, the most important field is this Requires T3 Pedigree checkbox. If this is checked, then this item will trigger all the T3 logic on transactions. The DEA schedule and control type pertain to license validation. I'm going to leave these blank for now, and we'll come back to this in a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and save my item. Now for my demo here, let's say that my company is a pharmaceutical reseller. So let's start by entering the purchase order for this vendor, Bayer Healthcare. I'm going to set the date to yesterday. I'm going to set the location to San Francisco. And then I'm going to select my test drug. Let's say I need to purchase 50 bottles of it. The first customization here I'll point out is that on the PO form, you'll notice this new Requires T3 Pedigree checkbox column. This checkbox sources its value from the item record, where we set the Requires T3 Pedigree preference on the item. So that's it for the PO. We don't need to do anything special here. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Most of the magic here happens when we receive this product we ordered, so let's go ahead and do that. So now I'm assuming that I have a box of these 50 bottles in front of me. The first thing I'll do is put in the lot number information that I've received. We'll say they expire in a year from now. And let's say that all 50 are from the same lot. And then we'll go ahead and save the item receipt. So now that I've received it, I get a little banner at the top here saying that I need to enter a T3. To do that, simply click the Add T3 button on the top of the item receipt. Okay, since this is our first time entering a T3, let's pause for a moment to get things set up. If you check the Custom tab, you'll notice that the default custom form is the T3 Drug Pedigree Form lot number. This is assuming that you're working with lot-numbered inventory with no serial numbers. If that's not the case, you'll want to change this, and I'll show you how that works in a few minutes. And either way, regardless of what form you're on, the first time you're doing this, we do want to go to Customize the Form so we can set the preferred print template. This field pertains to which print template is used when you click the print button on the T3 pedigree itself. I'm going to use our print template. Okay, that's done. So now back to entering our pedigree. As you can see, most of these fields in the Order Info section will automatically populate. That all looks correct to me, so now let's look at the Item Info section. Here, if it hasn't already defaulted to the item you need, choose the item from the item receipt that you're entering the pedigree for, and then select the lot number from the item receipt. When you do that, the quantity and expiration date should autofill, and now on the Ownership History tab, if there is any previous pedigree information, I need to enter that here. Otherwise, if Bayer Healthcare is the manufacturer, then I would click the manufacturer checkbox here and leave the ownership history blank. But let's say that when they sent me this drug, they did include a pedigree document that shows who had ownership of it before they did. I'll enter that information down on the Ownership History tab. Here the date refers to when Bayer Healthcare received this drug from the originating entity. Let's say it was a week ago. When I select the date, Bayer Healthcare and their address automatically populate into the receiving entity columns. Let's say that they received it from a company called AL Systems. I'll select their address, enter their reference number, and before that, AL Systems got it from Acera, who was the manufacturer. So again, I'll enter the date, and when I do, the receiving entity auto-populates from the line above. And now here I'm going to select Acera. Now they don't have an address entered yet in my system, so I'm going to go ahead and enter an address for them here. And let's say that they are the manufacturer. So now when I save this, I'll have a complete pedigree document. And on the receipt, we'll see that here on the T3 Details tab. To view the pedigree, you just have to click on the ID number here. And if I want to see what it looks like on the PDF, I can click the print button here. And here it is. This shows our transaction history, starting with Acera, the manufacturer, going to AL Systems, and then to Bayer Healthcare, and finally to us. So now that we have this drug in inventory, we'll take a look at the sales process and the T3 for transferring ownership of this drug to a customer. We'll start with a test customer. And from the test customer, I'm going to enter a sales order. We'll follow the normal process for this, nothing special here. And again, I'll point out that on the item line, we see the Requires T3 Pedigree checkbox is again checked. Go ahead and save my sales order, and now I'm going to fulfill it. I'll set a location to San Francisco, and now I'm going to select my lot number that I entered today. Now I'll save the fulfillment, and now guess what? If I check the Files tab here, we'll see that the T3 has been automatically added. It's attached right here on the fulfillment as well as on the sales order. And if we look at the T3 PDF, we see that the history we entered in when we were receiving the drug, as well as the new line at the bottom showing the sale to this customer. So that's about it for the main T3 pedigree flow. Now let's look at some more advanced stuff. Let's start with automatic T3 creation. Let's say that you have a manufacturer that you order from frequently, and you know that when you buy from them, the product will never cross anyone else's hands before coming to you. I'm going to edit my vendor record and show you what I'm talking about. If you go to the Custom tab on the vendor record, you'll see a couple of checkboxes here. If the vendor is the manufacturer, you can click this Manufacturer Auto Create T3 Pedigrees checkbox. I'll save the vendor and show you what this does now. I'm just going to start by making a copy of my previous purchase order here. And when I receive it, you'll see what the difference is. I'm going to enter in a new lot number. Now notice that I didn't get a banner telling me that I need to create a T3. That's because a T3 was automatically created now. Let's take a look at it. So here's the T3 that was automatically created. Notice that the entity is marked as the manufacturer now, and there's no ownership history. Alternatively, let's say that you aren't getting the product directly from your vendor, but you purchase them frequently and you want this process to be partly automated. For this, we have the Auto Create T3's non-manufacturer checkbox. Again, I'm going to make a copy of my PO and show you the difference. I'm going to receive it again like normal. And when I save the receipt, we'll again go look at the pedigree. Now this one is very similar to the last example, except for this one, the manufacturer checkbox on the T3 is not checked, and we expect you to come in and add the ownership history at some point before this item gets shipped out to a customer on a fulfillment. If this is going to be your process, I would recommend setting up a reminder saved search to notify you of any pedigrees that are not the manufacturer and that have no ownership history lines. Now let's move on to something else. Let's talk about lot numbers with serial numbers. With the recent requirements from the FDA, you may also be required to track item serial numbers in addition to their lot numbers. We have implemented a simple way to do this using NetSuite lot numbered items and a custom record for serial numbers. To demonstrate this, I'm going to go back into my preferences and switch serial numbers on. And I'll save my preferences. Now let's do another example using the exact same item and vendor as before. Except first I'm going to disable automatic T3 creation because I want to walk through this manually. First I'm going to make a copy of my purchase order again. Except now let's change the quantity to 5 because we're going to have to enter serial numbers for all these. So receiving it is exactly the same as before, nothing changes yet here. For now we just have to enter the lot number. Now I'll click the Add T3 button. So now when we enter this T3, we want to use a different custom form. So I'll change it to Lot Inventory with Serial Numbers. And now first let's customize this form and set it as our preferred form. And we'll also set the print template while we're here. I'll save that. So on the T3, we start out just like we did before, where we select the item and the lot number. But now we also have to enter in our serial numbers. If you have just a few serial numbers like I do, then you can manually enter them here on the Serial Numbers tab. But if you have quite a few, then you can use the Scan Serial Numbers tab and bulk scan them in. I'm going to show you how this works. Let's say these are my serial numbers. Now when I saved the T3, oh look, this is good. I got a warning telling me that I haven't specified who the manufacturer is. Let's say that Bayer Healthcare is the manufacturer for this example. Now when I save the T3, let's go back in and take a look at it. And if I check the serial numbers tab, you'll notice that a serial number record got created for each of the serial numbers I entered in for this lot number. Now let's see what it looks like to fulfill this serialized lot number. I'm going to go to my star structural customer and enter in a sales order. I'm going to use the same test drug here. And let's say we're selling 3 of them. To clear out this discount information, then I'm going to save my sales order. Now we'll go ahead and fulfill the order. So first I have to set my location and lot number just like usual. And then I can click this Select Serial Numbers button. This will show me any available serial numbers for the lots on this fulfillment. Again, if you need to select a lot of them, you can scan or copy and paste in serial numbers here, but I'm just going to manually select a few of them. Then I'm going to save my fulfillment. Now if we check the T3 PDF attached, we'll see the specific serial numbers listed. Here they are. So that covers custom serial numbers for NetSuite lot numbered items. But what if you're using standard NetSuite serialized inventory? Let's take a look at that. I'm going to go back to my vendor and create a new PO for a serialized item this time. I'll set the location. Oh, and actually look, my requires T3 pedigree field is not checked here, so that tells me first I need to set this item up. I'll do that now quickly. Just going to click the requires T3 pedigree checkbox and save my item. I'll cancel this line and try entering the item again. There we go. Now it's sourced properly. So again, nothing special on the PO. I'll go ahead and save this. Now I'll go ahead and receive it. Now when we receive it, we need to enter the serial number on the line, and we also need to record the lot number. To record the lot number, we have a special column that we need to enable here. So I'm going to customize the item receipt form and switch this on. You only need to do this once, obviously, if you're using NetSuite serial numbered items. Go to sublist fields and just turn on the T3 lot number column here. Now if I refresh my item receipt, that field should be there. So let's say the lot number is 210429A. The serial number is 210429A1. Click OK, and I'll save the item receipt. Now I'm going to add my T3. Now when we go to enter the T3, the first time we do it, again, we need to go to the Custom tab and make sure we're on the right form. For serial numbered items, we need to be on the T3 drug pedigree form serial numbered. And if this is the form you're going to be using for good, you would again want to go to Customize, set it as your preferred form, and set the default PDF template. I'm going to go ahead and just enter this one. We'll set Bayer Healthcare as the manufacturer. And here you'll notice that the lot number automatically fills. I do need to enter an expiration date because we didn't enter this on the receipt. And if we click on the serial numbers tab here, we'll see that it automatically filled from the item receipt. I'll go ahead and save this, and that's how we track NetSuite serialized inventory. Now the final thing we'll go over here is T3 entity license validation. The DEA in different states require different types of licenses, so we give you a way to manage these requirements from within NetSuite. Let's go back to our test lot numbered item. So back on our test drug record, we'll just need to set these licensing requirements. We'll set the DEA schedule to Schedule 2 and the control type to RX Pharmaceuticals. And with these fields set, this item will now require licensing before it can be bought or sold. To show you what I mean, I'm going to enter this PO for the item without any license first. Now right when I select my item, the validation should run. So I get a warning that says this item requires a license, but no valid license was found. You will not be able to save this transaction. If I try to add this line, I also get a warning about the DEA blank number. You need to enter that here. And if I tried to save this transaction anyway, ignoring the warning about license validation, you'll notice that the license validation runs server-side as well, and a user event script blocks us from creating this purchase order. In other words, if you have a web store or any other integration method of orders being brought into your NetSuite, this license validation will still run in those scenarios as well. Now let's go back and add a license to the vendor to allow them to sell this drug. I'll go to the Regulatory Licenses tab here and click New T3 License. I'm going to choose RX Pharmaceuticals as the authorized control type and authorized DEA schedule as Schedule 2. I'm going to select the address that this license pertains to. State license number is 12345. Expiration date, I'm going to set it to tomorrow so that you'll see a warning we have about licenses that expire soon. We'll set this one to a year out. Notice the name automatically populates using the state license number, the state, and the address label. So now back on my PO, if I try to use the same item again, I just get a warning saying that the state license is expiring tomorrow. But that's fine. Again, I'm going to enter a DEA blank number and save my purchase order, and it should go through just fine. And that wraps up the T3 Pedigree SuiteApp for NetSuite. If you'd like to know more about this SuiteApp, please contact us at gurus@headintheclouddev.com or check out our website, www.headintheclouddev.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you at SuiteWorld.